Do you think it's a mistake to start making and releasing theatrical movies based on their TV shows with multiple seasons? For example, the Mandalorian movie, new Jack Ryan film, and recently announced Game of Thrones movie. Generally speaking, my gut reaction to kind of all three of these was, I don't think that'll work. I don't, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like with Grogu, Mandalorian and Grogu, there's a little bit of a different perspective there where I feel like they announced the movie after the show's peak, where a lot of interest has dwindled because of Book of Boba Fett in season 3. And then they're like, now we're going to do a movie. And it's like, I'm already less interested. If you announced this after season 2, I might have been interested, but not right now. And like with Jack Ryan, they announced the John Krasinski Jack Ryan TV show is going to get a movie. Like, I hear that and I go, what? Like, why would you do that? That if you like him as a TV show, you like him as a TV show. You like the long form storytelling with just more time to develop everything. And you lose what works by going to a movie that's shorter. It just feels condensed. And you immediately go like, what are you going to do? What are you doing at 2 hours? Because the nature of the world that Jack Ryan is in, it's long form. It's not 2 hours. So it just doesn't make sense to me. Earlier in here, we talked about Game of Thrones. It was the same sort of idea of Game of Thrones was already cinematic. So what do you think you're bringing to the table by making it a movie? Because it immediately just feels smaller because the story is so much shorter. So I think that most of these seem like big misfires to me, that they don't understand what people like about the television version. I do think maybe Mando and Grogu could have worked after season 2. That Grogu goes off, he's being trained, Mando goes off and has his adventures. We don't do Book of Boba Fett and undo the ending. We don't do season 3 that undoes the ending. And then you come back a few years later, people still love them, and Grogu is now a trained Jedi. And so you do this reunion movie that it is like, we're going to do the culmination of like all these plot lines we were teasing, and Mando has to go back and get Grogu. They're reunited after years. And for the audience, they're reunited after years to go face Moff Gideon and his force-using clones. And it's a movie that like this big gigantic threat. And who does Mando trust more than anyone? It's Grogu. And Grogu is cute as ever, but deadlier than ever as well. I think that could have worked in that context because that show was so episodic. And if you could tell like a 2.5 hour story that would feel like an actual payoff, and it would feel like an event following it up, where Jack Ryan, it just feels like a smaller story. Like you don't add anything like, oh, Jack Ryan, you need all that extra money for spectacle. Jack Ryan is not Rambo. He's not John Wick. And like, he's a man of action. There is some action. He's willing to step into that, but he's not Rambo. He's not the soldier. Like, even as we're going to maybe do the movie, are we going to bring Michael B. Jordan in? Blanking on that character's name. But the Without Remorse character, that's the guy that in the books, like he works with that guy that actually is good at killing people. So maybe they're trying to do that, but I generally speaking don't get it. If you're going to transition to a movie, I think you need it to be an event. So like Star Trek, the motion picture, 10 years after Star Trek was canceled, was an event. And you can watch any episode of the original show and you watch any frame of Star Trek, the motion picture, the slow motion picture, the production escalation of quality is tremendous. You immediately see the difference. Like it's like, wow, this is really cool. Star Trek can look like this. You wouldn't have that with Game of Thrones. You wouldn't have that with Jack Ryan. So I just don't understand it with shows like that. That like, if you're going to adapt it into a movie, you have to have some way that it makes sense that that's actually a payoff event that's bigger and better than your show. And when your show is Game of Thrones, it's already the biggest show of the last 15 years. It's already the most cinematic show of the last 15 years. You can't outdo that. and you lose what people loved about that show, the dense storytelling, the long form arcs, and the density that everything is so played out and developed and layered. You do that with a movie. Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.